Yo, what's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and it feels so good to be back in the studio after being locked in the house the past couple of days. But now we got some graphics, and we got a lot to discuss. First off, we're going to be talking about a Joe Burrow trade. Is it officially dead? We had an NFL insider chime in on that. And then also CBS listed a wide receiver the Vikings should sign this offseason. So we'll dive into that on the second half of today's show. But this NFL insider, if you know, you know, Crack Rock. And if you guys are on the Vikings Twitter sphere, you probably know he's got some insight in the Vikings organization. And he tweeted this out saying Joe Burrow is not on the trade block. Every NFL team would make multiple offers if he was. Stop believing the nonsense. This is 100% confirmed. I was laughed at for trying to bring it up. The reality is JJ is a QB next year, period, stop. I am just the humble messenger, LFG. So obviously there was a lot of buzz on potential Joe Burrow trade. Walter Football tweeted something out. Grant Cohen, and Niners insider, said his Vikings source that the Vikings made an offer to the Bengals for Joe Burrow. And, it makes sense that a Joe Burrow trade is not on the table right now because it will never be on the table unless Joe Burrow formally demands a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not just saying like a softball trade request. I'm saying Joe Burrow goes to the Bengals front office and says, I will never play another game for this organization, and if you guys don't trade me, I will retire. That's the only way this trade goes down because the Bengals front office and their brass know how important Joe Burrow is to that organization. So unless it comes from a hardball trade demand, trade request from Burrow, a trade will never be on the table. But also, teams aren't making trade calls yet. The Super Bowl's here in 2 weeks. Like, obviously, teams aren't going to be making blockbuster trade offers at this time. So the whole report that the Vikings offered, 2 first-round picks, Jonathan Grenard, J.J. McCarthy for Joe Burrow, yeah, it sounds great. We love to, speculate about that here on the channel, but that doesn't make any sense. Teams aren't making trade offers, right now. And, so it is sounding like the Vikings will have to ride with J.J. McCarthy. And I think that's just reality of the situation here because I think the Vikings understand there is not an easy upgrade out there for this organization. Now, are there like slight upgrades, like in the likes of a Mac Jones, potentially a Kirk Cousins, where maybe for like week 1 next season, they will be tiny upgrades over J.J. McCarthy where he is right now? But also, what if J.J. McCarthy develops this offseason? What if he gets a whole lot better where maybe by week 3, week 4 next season, he's a lot better than all these guys? Like Kirk Cousins feels like the most likely option in terms of a quarterback that the Vikings are going to bring in. I would probably steer clear of that. I like the idea of Kirk, but I just think he's probably going to end up back in Atlanta. Mac Jones, there's no way in hell I'm giving up a round 3 pick for Mac Jones, the San Francisco 49ers. Say no to that. Malik Willis, no, you're going to have to pay him too much. Marcus Mariota, Gardner Minshew would have some interest in these 2 guys because, yes, they are high-end backups, but they wouldn't put any pressure on J.J. McCarthy where it's like, oh, Mariota is going to be the 17-game starter, or like Gardner Minshew is going to be the 17-game starter. This is pretty much just injury assurance for J.J. McCarthy, so I see it there. And my take on the whole Joe Burrow, Vikings quarterback, drama, saga going on right now this offseason is if it's not Joe Burrow, it's got to be the other 9, and that being J.J. McCarthy. If you can't go out there and land that big fish, Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals, which won't happen unless he formally demands a trade, you ride out with J.J. McCarthy. And here's a wild thought for Vikings fans. What if a 23-year-old kid in J.J. McCarthy gets a whole lot better this offseason? What if he takes some strides? Like, we knew he was a developmental pick when the Vikings drafted him out of Michigan. What if he gets a whole lot better? What if he takes his game to another level where obviously he was playing some terrible quarterback play this past season? What if he's top 20 this year? What if he's top 15? The Vikings are a playoff team if that's the case. Now, obviously, the injury concern and the injury history is a whole different question, but I think in terms of him taking strides as a pure quarterback, I think that's fully on the table this offseason. Now, also the question becomes does Kevin O'Connell or Kwesi Adofo-Mensah want that? Are they willing to ride out with J.J. McCarthy next year? I have no idea because I think they fully understand their jobs are on the line. Their seats are hot. Now, would they want to turn to J.J. McCarthy and be like, oh, you know what, JJ, we trust in you. You're going to be our guy. J.J. McCarthy, if he ends up taking huge strides, we'll probably end up staying around here. But off of J.J. plays like he did last year, or he has injuries like he did last year, it probably means Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi are out the door. So will they want to take the risk on J.J., or will they want to go the safer route of a Mac Jones, Kirk Cousins, I pray to you, do not bring in Mac Jones. You bring in Mac Jones, you probably go 9-8, 10-7, potentially make the playoffs. You're not doing anything in the playoffs. You would be another one and done. And I still think a one and done with Mac Jones for Kevin O'Connell will probably result in him getting fired. Take the risk on JJ. If you can't get Joe Burrow, that's where I'm at. And I'm also assuming that's where a lot of other Vikings fans are at. Because we understand, like, JJ McCarthy was not good this past season. We understand he has a lot of room to grow. But what if he just gets a little better this year? Like, we have to be patient with these guys. Like, we just saw Sam Darnold, for example, when the Jets drafted him when he was 21 years old, moved off him after 3 seasons. I'm sure they're kicking themselves saying, man, I wish we would have just wrote it out with Sam because he would have continued to develop. And I think the Vikings are in a similar spot right here with JJ where, yes, he looked so bad this past season, but just trust in him developing. Trust in your head coach. Like, this Vikings organization talks about KOC being a quarterback whisperer. That's his calling card. Well, do your job and work your magic on the guy you spent the 10th overall pick on. So it's either Joe Burrow or J.J. McCarthy for me. One of the 2 quarterbacks wear number 9. I think those guys should be the front runners for the quarterback position. Can't be Mac Jones, can't be Kirk Cousins, or else I'd be pretty upset. But if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. Closing in here on 69,500 subs. We just need 35 more of you guys. Hit that subscribe button today. So if you guys are brand new here, hit that sub button. Just need 35 more of you guys watching today's show to do just that. And then we can hit 69,500 subs. All right, CBS Sports predicted the Vikings signing a star wide receiver who's making a lot of plays during the NFL playoffs this past season. So we'll give you guys my thoughts on that. I know a wide receiver for the Vikings doesn't make too much sense, but it would be a pretty fun pickup for Minnesota. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. But let me tell you about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Now, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season outright with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Now, you guys can also find your community on Prize Picks with the new social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. We also have a brand new feature called Early Payouts. So if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So download the Prize Picks app today. Plug in promo code CLNS. Get hooked up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. But massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, so the wide receiver CBS Sports listed out as a potential pickup for the Vikings this offseason. The speedster, former New Orleans Saint and current Seattle Seahawk, Rasheed Shaheed. This is actually what CBS Sports had to say. This was coming in from Zachary Perella saying Seattle traded multiple picks at the deadline to acquire Shaheed. And while he hasn't had as big a role as expected on offense, he has been terrific as a returner with 3 return touchdowns, including the playoffs. Other suitors, Rams, Giants, and Vikings. So obviously the Vikings listed there. And, listen, Rasheed Shaheed is a burner. He's a guy that can just take the top off the defense, an elite returner. He had on the first play from scrimmage against the San Francisco 49ers. He took that kick back to the house. This guy is an absolute burner. He can really put a lot of pressure on the defense. And I've always wanted the Vikings to get that burner next to a guy like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. They tried to pick that up last year with a guy like Rondale Moore, somebody who can take the top off, also can be a gadget guy. And, Addison can sometimes fit that mold as well, but they want Addison to just be more of your pure wide receiver. But I'll tell you what, if this was the Vikings' potential big 3 at the wide receiver position, this would be my dream wide receiver room. Rasheed Shaheed would fit that billing. Like just a guy who can take the top off, a guy who can, run gadget plays for, throw screens to, and then the combination of Jefferson, Addison, Rasheed Shaheed. This would be one of the best wide receiver or best trio of wide receivers we see in the NFL. And listen, Shaheed would be a great fit for the Vikings. Like if we're playing Madden and we're playing Ultimate Team, like, hey, sign me up for this any day of the week. But they can't make this work financially. Rasheed Shaheed's probably going to get around $15 to $20 million per year. And I think he's worth that. I mean, he's an all-pro returner. He's also a fantastic wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 option. But the Vikings just can't afford him at that price tag. The Vikings right now being about $40 million in the hole, they'll be able to get out of it. They'll be able to clear up around, $30 million in cap space in the green. But the Vikings just also have too many other needs. Like, you got to go get a safety. You got to go get a cornerback. You got to potentially add some talent on that defensive line. You need a center. And if you do end up cutting TJ Hawkinson to open up a lot of money, well, you're going to have to go get another tight end. Now, yes, you can address a lot of these needs in the NFL draft. But I think with the Vikings at the wide receiver spot, put some faith in a guy like Ty Felton developing. Put some faith in maybe a Miles Price taking that next step. But you got Jefferson and Addison. Addison's going to get paid eventually. You're already paying Jefferson this year on the books $38 million. You're going to go out there and sign Rasheed Shaheed. I think it sounds great on paper, just financially doesn't make too much sense for the Minnesota Vikings. But you guys make the call for me. Should the Vikings sign Rasheed Shaheed? Are you willing to go to that price tag? You guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Give me an S for sign or a P for pass. And also hit that subscribe button on your way out. Help us reach 69,500 subs here. Feels good to be back in the office, making videos for you guys yet again. So we'll catch you guys next time. As always, let's go Vikes.